Hello, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm a professional astrologer with over 30,000 clients worldwide and more than 40 years experience in the business. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this video and to have the opportunity to talk with you about humanity in crisis. We as a humanity are going through a crisis period in our lives. And this is something that's just so potent and powerful, and I want to get to the reasons why. Now, being a professional astrologer, naturally I'm steeped in the tenets of astrology, and so therefore I see things and perceive things from the viewpoint of the 12 houses of the horoscope, because that's where we are all living. And why are we going through such a crisis period at the moment as a humanity? Well, the reason why is because we are so much more intelligent today than what we were in our last lifetime. Let's say, for example, that all of us had our last lifetime and died by the time the end of the Second World War came, or the First World War, 1918. Let's just say that that's the situation, is that all of us died by 1918. That was our last lifetime, and now we're back into this incarnation. What sort of a world is it that we've come into this time? We have come into a world where we are able to see stories about personal victory there on the internet, there on YouTube, there on the movies, and there on the television. Look, we are just so different. None of these things were available to us in our last lifetime. And so all of us are being educated, and this education is a massive amount of information that we're taking in. And we're taking in an incredible amount of experience as well, and I'll get to the experience side of it shortly. But let's just go through the 12 houses of the horoscope and look at what we're all taking in on a day-by-day basis every time we turn on the television, or every time we get onto the internet, every time that we watch a YouTube video, every time we go to the movies. None of these things were available going back into our last lifetime. And so we're all experiencing an impact about what has been commenced and started by great people throughout the world as a personal self-initiated effort, looking at the first house and how they've been able to put that structure into plan and step by step, and been able to, through the power of their will and determination, bring it down into manifestation as conditions and events in their life. We're able to look at the stories of people's lives about how they've come from poverty and risen up through the ranks through power and courage and strength and tenacity and purpose, and they've been able to make a lot of money, and they've been able to do good with that money in helping the poor and helping to educate people and to ameliorate suffering in the world and so forth. We see stories on the television and in the internet and on the videos and in the movies that we see about communication, the third house of the horoscope, and how other people are communicating in their lives with their intimates, with their neighbours, with their relatives, with their close ones, with their spouse, with their... Look, we're able to go and see a different movie every day on the television that shows actors acting out parts that are giving us an idea of what communication is all about and how other people are communicating. None of this education was available to us in our last lifetime. As far as the home and family environment is concerned, we're able to see the homes of people in foreign countries in the movies and in the news every day and on the television. We're able to see the way that people live, that different cultures and civilizations live in their home and their family life. And we're able to get an idea of how people integrate with each other and how they correspond and communicate with each other in the home environment, and the different stories of human tragedy in the family and so on and so forth. So this is all education. We are all being educated so much. We're able to see stories galore about romance and love and social activities going on to the 5th house of the horoscope, and the way that people are out there enjoying themselves in the social side of life, and the way that they're able to communicate and stay true in relationships or not, and how they're out there having fun and caring for their children, and how they're being a tower of strength to their children, and a loving hand and a guide to their children to raise them up into greatness and so forth. Stories of people's lives as children and how they became great in their adult life. We're also able to see the negative side of that, and the way that children are abused, and we're able to go to the movies and see stories of people in love and who got betrayed by their lover and so on and so forth. So this is all education, a massive amount of education that we're all undergoing every single day when we turn on that television set, or we go onto the internet, or we watch a YouTube, or we go and see the movies, or we watch the world news. The 6th house, as far as the job and health and dietary matters are concerned, we're getting so much education all the time about health and diet and what to and what not to. And we're understanding what causes this problem with our health and what causes that problem with our health. And we're looking at people in their working environment in the movies, and we're looking at people in the internet, and we're looking at people on television in their working environment, and how they're interrelating with people that they work with and co-workers and so forth, and the rights and wrongs of all of that. This is all education. We're looking at marriage and relationships so intimate and close, where those people are trying to find somebody who they can love and who can love them in return, someone that they can get to know and who can get to know them in return, an intimate, a close one, a partner. And we're looking at all sorts of different partnerships, gay partnerships, straight partnerships, relationships that break down, why they break down. We're able to get all of this into ourselves on a day-by-day basis through our television sets and through our internet and through the YouTube and through the movies. These weren't available to us in our last lifetime. And then the 8th house is the house of change, and the only thing that's constant in the universe is change. We're all going through a process of change all the time, and we see how people change and how people die and how people survive near-death experiences, and how people die in courage and die in poverty, and how people die this way and that way, and die in pain and die in joy. Look, there's just so many different things that are there on all of these outlets that give us education. And then we've got the 9th house. We're able to travel all over the world and to see the way that other civilizations and cultures are living in their countries. We're able to travel without even moving from our living room, and we're able to get onto the internet and look in on a particular country and see what sort of food that they're eating and what's going on there with their country and what they're proud of and what they're not proud of, and the history of the country. And all of this is education. We're able to look at successful stories about businessmen who rised up from the ashes of depravity and poverty, and were able to become a great business person and be able to become a philanthropist and to help other people. And we're able to look at businesses and how they work and how they don't work, and we're getting all of this education through our television and our computers and our movies. We're able to experience group consciousness, and we're able to go into all sorts of different clubs and sports clubs and this clubs and that clubs and social clubs, and we're able to see the way that groups work and interact with each other on the sporting field and in the various different methodologies of their interaction with each other in group cooperation and so forth. This is all showing us how friends work together, and we're able to see movies about friends who were deceived by their friends and trusted friends and were let down, and friends who were supported through terrible tragedies and so on and so forth. This is all education that we didn't have in our past life. And the 12th house is where we are experiencing our loneliness and our self-destructive habit patterns of behaviour and our self-punishment and self-abnegation and fear and anxiety and doubt and insecurity and in hospitals and institutions. Look, we're able to see what's going on in operations. We're able to look at the interior of people while they're in hospital. We're able to look at what's going on in their lives in the form of drug addictions and alcoholism and depravity of the lowest sort. All of this is showing the loneliness that's there in the world, and we're able to see all the pain and the suffering of our fellow man all over the world. This is all education. We've got all of this massive amount of information that's coming into ourselves, and it's having an impact. It's raising our intelligence. It's raising our consciousness. We are different people than what we were in our last lifetime. The brain was very slow and very mediocre compared with what we're experiencing today. So everything's speeding up. We are all educated to an incredible degree. We all have a heightened state of consciousness and awareness of what's going on around us and what's going on in the world. We all have a heightened state of consciousness about everything that's going on. It's amazing what a change that there is in the last 100 years. So that's the first reason why we're in crisis. It's because we are more intelligent. We have a heightened state of awareness. We have a heightened state of consciousness compared with what we did in our last lifetimes. We are taking in hundreds of times more information in a lifetime than what we did in our last lifetime. And so this is a heightened state of consciousness, a heightened state of awareness, and a heightened state of intelligence. And with that heightened state of consciousness and that heightened state of awareness comes a more sensitive nervous system, and we are more responsive to the feelings of other people and so forth. We are more aware, we are more empathic, and we take the pain of others into ourselves, and we wonder why we're in crisis. Do you realise that when there's an earthquake in the world, no matter whether you're in the vicinity of the earthquake, in the country of the earthquake, in the city of the earthquake, or overseas, that earthquake, depending on its magnitude, has impact upon your chakras? In other words, what happens when there's a big earthquake in the world? It throws all of our chakras out of whack, out of balance. And all of the centres are not functioning as smoothly and as integrated as what they normally are. And so we feel a sense of imbalance within ourselves. And this is what's happening in our daily life. In our daily life, we are commencing and starting projects and ideas, and they are not working out for us, and we are having crisis in our life because our personal interests are not working out well, or we have some impact upon us with regard to our personal life and our self-initiated efforts, and that has an impact upon us, and it throws our chakras out of whack. It's a mini crisis in our life. We have a financial crisis in our life, and big bills come in, shake our sense of security. We lose our job and we have financial crisis in our life. We have some unexpected expense that comes in, some illness or something that draws upon our reserves, or some loved one that we need to help in times of crisis, and bang, we're in financial crisis. In our communications, we are communicating with people and everything's going along smoothly, and then all of a sudden there's a big argument and it throws our chakras out of whack. This is a mini earthquake in our own lives. And so we have accidents on the road. Bang! We are in crisis. It throws our chakras and our centers out of balance. We have a crisis in the home, a big argument, a fire in the home. We lose our residence. We have to change residence under shocking circumstances, perhaps. And any one of these can have an impact upon us that puts us into crisis, throws our chakras out of balance, throws our centers out of whack, and we are in a mini crisis in our lives. We have problems with our children. We have problems in relationships, romance. The social life didn't work out the way that we wanted it to last night. It ended up in a big argument or a conflict or something like that, or someone deceived us and let us down. So this has an impact upon us in regard to that area of our life. And we might have a gambling addiction or some other sex addiction or something like that, and we have problems there, and we are all of a sudden in crisis there in that area of our life. We lose our job. We have a health crisis. We have problems with somebody that we work with, a big argument, a big blow up, or we lose our job, or we have a crisis with our health. Bang! We are in crisis. Bang! Our centers are all thrown out of balance, and we are in a state of imbalance and crisis in our lives. We have a problem in our intimate relationships with our loved one and those that are our partners in life. And we have a big separation or a big crisis, a big argument that's very, very hurtful and painful. In our last lifetime, it wouldn't have mattered so much because we weren't so intelligent. But because we're so intelligent now and so conscious now and so aware now, it has so much of a greater impact because we have the capacity to reflect upon it that much more and to think about the consequences of that blow up or that separation. We have the death of somebody and it hits us as in crisis. All of a sudden we're out of whack and our centers are thrown out of balance. We have a problem with in-laws, or we have an accident overseas, or we have some crisis with regard to our adult education, or we have some crisis with regard to religious and spiritual differences, and bang, we are in crisis. We are out of balance. We are thrown into crisis in our lives. We are in business and the business goes down the drain, or we have a crisis in business in some description. We are not well thought of in the community. We are having problems with our self-esteem and so forth, and this is all an area of difficulty. One of our parents dies or gets a grave illness all of a sudden, and bang, we are in crisis. Bang, our centers are out of whack. Bang, we're out of balance. We have a problem with friends. We're out with friends and we're in a group or a club activity or something like that, enjoying group consciousness in our own way. Or we're dealing with other people's children in some way, and bang, there's an accident. Bang, one of them gets hurt. One of the friends has an accident. One of the friends has a bad news, comes on the mobile phone. Bang, we're in crisis. We have an argument and a conflict whilst we're out in group activities. And not only does it impact upon your relationship with the one that you had the argument with, but it has an impact upon your relationship with all of the friends who are there in that group activity. And bang, you're thrown into fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of loneliness and so forth. And so you are out of whack, you are in crisis, your centers are out of balance. You've had a mini earthquake in your life. You are thrown into hospital, or you have periods of isolation and loneliness where you feel cut off from everybody and lonely and frightened, and you are in crisis, in forced solitude. You are self-punishing, self-destructive, drug addicted or alcohol addicted or whatever addicted. We all have our own particular foibles and we all have our own particular addictions. So here you are, you're in some state of crisis in the 12th house of your horoscope, in hospital, or in the sense of loneliness and cut off and lonely and frightened. So we are not alone in all of these things, okay? Everybody is facing the same situation. Everybody is more intelligent. Everybody is more aware. Everybody is more awake and aware and alive and conscious about what's going on around them. And our nervous systems are so much more developed. Our brain is so much more developed. We are able to reflect and think upon things in a more complex way than what we were in our last lifetime. And so this is what we're all facing. And the way to get through these crises is to realize that you have the power of God and Goddess inside of yourself now. Your task is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. It's time to go back and to realize what I said in the early part of this video, was that the only thing that's constant in the universe is change. And so when you are faced with a crisis with regard to a personal initiative, and you have to really start to think, what is the universe calling for me to do? What is my higher self calling for me to do? What change is my higher self calling for me to bring about? Maybe I should think more carefully and plan things more carefully and not be so impulsive in getting things started, and so that I can plan things out much more carefully with deliberation and practicality, and follow it through with courage instead of a haphazard attitude that everything will be okay, Jack. Maybe my crisis to do with my sense of security comes through the fact that I've been foolish with my money. I haven't budgeted wisely. What changes are the circumstances in life demanding of me? Because change is the only thing that is constant in the universe. Change is the only thing that's going to correct that situation and put your centers back into balance. If you have a crisis like an accident on the road, or an injury to the hand or the arm, or a crisis in dealing with relatives or neighbours, a crisis in communication, and you're not fulfilling your communication needs, you're in crisis, you're out of balance, your chakras are thrown out of whack. Look at what is it that I'm needing to change here in regard to my methodologies in communication. Maybe I'm a bit too angry, maybe I'm a bit too aggressive, maybe I'm a little bit dominating and manipulating and controlling with people. You're in crisis to do with the home and the family side of life, or in crisis with one of your parents, or in crisis to do with the domestic arena in your life. What is it that you need to do to change? What sort of security am I providing to those in the home environment to have precipitated this sort of a crisis? What sort of nurturing do I need to do to those who are in the home environment with me? Maybe I've been acting as a martyr. Maybe I've been acting out of aggression. You're in crisis in the 5th house of your horoscope, where you've got problems with children, or problems in relationships, or problems in the social side of your life, and your chakras are all thrown out of whack by that crisis, or that separation, or that injury to a child, or something that's happened in your life to do with that 5th house. What is it that I need to change? This is the area where I'm expressing my love. Am I expressing my love selflessly? Am I loving myself? Am I letting the love in from others? Because you can't love another unless you first love yourself. Am I being deceptive in relationships? Am I not being true to my commitments and so forth, knowing that commitment is one of the things that we need to produce in and do in love? You're in crisis as far as your health is concerned, or as far as your job is concerned. Look at, what do I need to do to change? Is my diet out of whack? Am I exercising as much as what I should be? Am I looking after myself with my health? Am I communicating well with people that I work with? Am I loyal to my boss? Am I true to the obligations and commitments that I've made in this job? Look for the changes that the universe is calling for you to make, because everything that happens in your life of a negative nature is a whisper from the universe, or a shout from the universe, or a scream from the universe to change. That's the only thing that's constant in the universe, is change. When you stop changing, you stop living. So I won't go on through the other houses of the horoscope. That's enough for me to get the message across here. And so all of us are much more intelligent. All of us are much more aware. All of us are much more awake. All of us are much more alive. And we are more sensitive in our nervous systems. We are different than what we were in our last lifetimes. It's a different society. And so use that. Bring in the experience. Bring in the knowledge. And out of the synergy of the experience and the knowledge comes wisdom. And look deeply into yourself every time you are in crisis in any aspect of your life. And realize that it's okay to make mistakes. It's natural, it's normal, we all do it. When we're not making mistakes anymore, we've moved on to the next level of consciousness beyond the human level altogether. Well, we're all still here, so we must be making mistakes, and that's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. Okay, so it's okay you can forgive yourself. You can forgive yourself and you can change. And this is the message of this video, is to bring about that change within yourself. And how do you bring about that change? How do you become inspired to be able to give up your drugs, to be able to give up your alcohol, to be able to give up your domination and your manipulation and your control? How do you give up your sexual addiction? How do you give up your deceptive nature? How do you give up your abuse of yourself through bad food and no exercise? How do you give up on not being loyal and true in the job? How do you give up with not being wise as far as structuring your plans and so forth are concerned? How do you give up your foolishness with regard to your handling of money and the lack of responsibility that you're taking on with regard to your finances? Well, the way that you get motivated to be able to do all these changes is to take in knowledge and to realize that this is a different dispensation than what it was in our last lifetime. This is a new age that we're living in now. Okay, we're in the 21st century, and it's time now for you to realize that you have partners there in the inner side of life. You have a higher self, which is the piece of God and Goddess that you are becoming. As you become more of it, it becomes more of God and Goddess, and God and Goddess become more of the underlying principle of love. Everybody's growing. Your future self is an angelic form, a being that has no form, and it belongs on the higher levels of consciousness. It contains all of your futures there, and it is there to help you and to guide you. And you have so many other helpers. Get into my intensives, because there's just so much there to learn. It's easy to say, well, nobody seems to have all the answers, but there are those in incarnation who are ready to lead you on into your next level of understanding, and to take in this knowledge, and with all the experience that you've had, to synergistically turn that experience and that knowledge into wisdom. And the knowledge that's there through my intensives is first class knowledge. It's the next level of consciousness that you are being called to understand that you have all of these properties, all of the qualities and all of the powers of God and Goddess inside of yourself now. Your task is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. So it's time now to learn about the science of meditation. It's time now to become a master of being able to go into yourself in the act of meditation, and to be able to process those negative emotions, and to be able to drain them from their power by turning the attention of your mind to their opposite equivalent. Yes, you have choice. You have choice. That's an important thing to let in, that you are much more intelligent than what you were in your last lifetime. Sure, you're out of balance. Sure, you're out of whack. Sure, you've made mistakes. Sure, you're in pain. Sure, you're in fear. Sure, you're in loneliness. Sure, you've created difficulties in other people's lives. But that's in the past. It's time now to start working towards your future self and to not worry about what you've done and who you've been. It's time to worry about where you are going and who you are becoming. That's where it's all about. So get stuck into my intensities, because there's so much there to learn that will make a difference. Get your horoscope number 1 done by me. That's vitally important, because I can send you your chart free of charge, and you can then know what your ascendant is, and from that ascendant you can determine which is the right one for you to listen to the spiritual video for 2014, and what sort of tests that you're going to be facing in this lifetime. You can have your horoscope number 2 done by me, and the horoscope number 2 tells you where all your tests in this lifetime lie. And horoscope number 3 is a much more personal horoscope that's recorded with my voice, with beautiful backing music, and I'm able to tell you all about yourself, and you can look at the testimonials and see how happy people are and how their lives are being changed by my recordings. So let's all work together as a team. We are the one humanity today. We are moving into a new age. It's a wonderful new age that we're moving into. So let's all work together as a team and cooperate with our higher selves and cooperate with God, Goddess, all that is, who are there waiting for us to become more of the giants that we truly are. So it's time to unfold your goodness, truth and beauty. It's time to unfold your power, strength and talent. So I thank you for your attentiveness here and look forward to working further with you as you progress through my intensives. Thank you.